Welcome to Gene's Reviews, where I basically do whatever the hell I want. Hello everybody. Today I'm going to check out a brand new channel. This channel is called The Fine Print. I'll put the name of the channel down here because it's written kind of funny. But this is 24 hours in USA's most haunted hotel, the Stanley Hotel. From my favorite movie, The Shining. So let's check it out.
If there's anyone in this room, blow out this candle.
Great production value.
Hi everyone, my name is Trent and I live and travel out of my van all across North America. And along my travels, I often stumble upon creepy, abandoned, or even haunted places. And today, I am at the historic and supposedly severely haunted Stanley Hotel. This is a place where many years ago, Stephen King, one of the most renowned horror authors out there, stayed at and had such a nightmarish experience here that it inspired him to write The Shining, which is one of his best-selling horror novels. And on top of that, there are so many stories about ghostly apparitions appearing in the hallways and spooky stuff just happening all around this hotel.
Narrow
and we're gonna dive
hallways
into that
too.
Tonight when I stay at the Stanley Hotel in one of their most haunted rooms all by myself.
That's so cool. He's doing it just like the movie did with the chapters and everything. That's pretty cool.
Hello.
How are we doing?
Great. I am here to check in.
Just need credit card, driver's license, look at you right away.
All right, cool. Man, this place is awesome.
Sure is. Beautiful.
Gotta ask, I mean, experienced anything crazy?
No, there's just a little wavy down here.
All right.
Any questions at the moment?
Nope, I think that's it.
All right, so one night and enjoy.
All right, thank you.
Okay, I guess the hallways really aren't all that narrow. It looks like it gets narrower as it goes down further. Probably the camera view of it made it look real narrow.
Wow. This is both beautiful and spooky.
I'll bet that's about $1,000 a night.
I cannot believe
I don't know though.
I am here right now. This is a place that I have been wanting to go to for a very, very long time. Specifically, this room right here, which is called the Cowboy Attic. And if any of you guys out there follow paranormal investigator YouTubers, you would know that Sam and Colby, one of the biggest paranormal duos on YouTube, have come and stayed in this very room twice. And those are some of their most watched videos because of the crazy things that have happened in
Definitely
here.
the biggest YouTubers for ghost hunters because they were even on Joe Rogan, so.
That door just moved.
Oh.
This door is moving. Hold on.
Starts right out. Right off the bat.
Right off the bat, this door is moving. And there's nothing in here. But that window is open.
Yeah. That could have caused it.
This window is open, which could be causing some sort of vacuum inside of this room, making that door over there move a little bit. I'm willing to bet that that is the case because I can see the door moving right now. Let's see if we close this window, if it stops. Yeah. It stopped.
Yeah. Debunked.
Debunked.
Awesome. So far, I like this guy. I'm going to check out some more of his videos.
This window is spectacular.
Because they're not all paranormal, obviously.
I can see my van down there.
Life.
I've got a good view of the maze out front.
Geez, nobody's there.
And then over this way is a bunch of snowy mountains. I was also looking at the forecast before coming up here, and there's actually supposed to be a very severe storm coming in tonight and through tomorrow, which I'm kind of excited for. I just think that would really elevate my experience here in the Stanley. Just up the spooky vibe.
Yeah, it would.
I can see it rolling in past those snowy mountains now. I hope it really follows through, because that would be really fun.
I guess the maze in the movie was probably just added for the movie.
Okay, we've got a few hours before the sun sets here, so I figured I'd take the time and set the tone for the rest of the night by telling you guys a brief history of this place and tell you guys a few paranormal stories that a few guests have experienced while staying here at the Stanley. A man by the name of Freeland O. Stanley, who's known for creating a steam-powered car known as the Stanley Steam Engine, came to Estes Park, Colorado with his wife, Flora, in hopes that high elevation and fresh air that the Rocky Mountains offer would help clear Freeland's tuberculosis, which apparently it did after just one summer of being here, which I think is pretty cool. Shortly after coming here, Freeland and Flora fell in love with this area so much that they decided to call it home and eventually start the construction of the Stanley Hotel. When the hotel finally opened in 1909, it was a pretty big deal because even though this place was surrounded by lush forests and snowy mountains,
it's really out of the way.
Somehow this place was equipped with electricity, telephones, modern bathrooms, and even a maid and cooking staff. So this place attracted a lot of notable and rich people over the years, including a man by the name of Stephen King, which is something I mentioned at the beginning of this video, but essentially, Stephen King and his wife stayed here in the fall of 1974. It was the brink of winter, and there was a brutal snowstorm when Stanley and his wife arrived here. And the hotel was getting ready to close for the season because this place didn't have heat at the time.
You mean Stephen?
So when Stephen and his wife arrived at the hotel, they were told that if you were to stay here, just know that you guys are the only ones staying in the hotel. But they needed a place to stay for the night, so they stayed here anyway. And after walking up to the second floor to their room and wandering these eerily lonely, empty hallways to room 217, they laid down to rest for the night. And that night, Stephen King had a nightmare about a fire hose chasing his son down these empty hallways of the Stanley Hotel. He jolted awake in a sweat after this nightmare and sat at the end of the bed and had a cigarette while he collected himself. And this is where the entire storyline of The Shining was created. Apparently, that room is haunted by a woman named Elizabeth Wilson. She was a maid that worked here way back in the day, and one day when she was in room 217 cleaning up the place, there was a gas leak and it exploded and nearly killed Elizabeth. However, she ended up surviving, and she lived a pretty long life and continued to work here at the Stanley for years. However, a lot of people say that the entire fourth floor of the Stanley is haunted by children. They often hear children running up and down the halls, which is really freaking creepy to me. And I'm actually staying on the fourth floor in room 428, which is the cowboy attic. And in this room in particular is where they hear furniture moving on its own, they hear footsteps in the middle of the night, and some have even seen a ghostly cowboy manifesting at the end of their bed, which would be absolutely terrifying to experience. And there are a ton of other ghost stories from real people that have experienced things while staying here in the Stanley Hotel. And we'll get more into that later on in the video. But as the sun begins to set,
I'd
start getting ready for
love
my
to
own
stay
paranormal investigation. I really hope we capture something of our own tonight, but I don't know. We'll see. All right, it is officially nighttime, and before
so far it looks like it's
I
just
do my
raining.
investigation in this room, which will kind of be the finale, I want to go explore the rest of the hotel, walk down the hallways, go to the Stephen King suite. There's a few other buildings that I want to go walk to as well, and I want to save this room for witching hour, which is 3 a.m., and it's about 10:30 right now, so we've got quite a bit of time. So yeah, let's go do some exploring.
Gosh, that would be so fun. Especially being the only one there.
I don't know if I mentioned
Looks like he's totally alone.
earlier, but this actually isn't where they shot The Shining.
Right.
It's just where Stephen King got the inspiration for the book The Shining.
Right. It was shot
They shot The Shining
in the
at
UK.
a hotel over in Oregon.
Oh, Oregon, okay.
But this place still
I thought it was in the UK.
a very spooky vibe to it, but it's also at the same time really beautiful. Like, these hallways are so elegantly designed, but also at the same time, they're kind of spooky.
Yeah.
And maybe it's because of the lack of people in the hallways.
I'm sure that's it.
I don't know.
How does it stay afloat?
It just has like an eerie vibe to it,
Because doesn't look like anyone else is there except him.
and it's awfully quiet. Weird.
Looks like this is more of just
This hotel offers ghost tours,
like an exploring
which I
type
feel like is
channel,
pretty
which I
standard
like.
for a haunted hotel, you know? But the craziest thing that they do here is they have seances in this room.
That is crazy.
Every Wednesday, which is freaking crazy to me. So if there's
Yeah.
not anything haunted here now, I mean, they're probably summoning something
probably.
every Wednesday. Wow.
That's why you don't
This
do that
looks
stuff.
crazy. They've got a Ouija board, a doll,
Oh,
spooky
no.
freaking pictures. That's freaking wild. That is wild. Here it is. 217. The Stephen King suite. This is the room where Stephen King stayed in many years ago and had his nightmare that inspired
1974.
The Shining. Now, unfortunately, this room you have to book months in advance, so I wasn't able to stay in it. But honestly, I'm not too upset about that because based off the stories that I've read, it doesn't really seem like that room is very haunted. I mean, there was a lady, Elizabeth Wilson, who was a maid here many years ago, and there was a gas leak that exploded, and she got
talked
really
about
injured,
that.
but she survived and ended up working in the hotel for many years after that, until one day she went home and died in her sleep. And some people say that she came back to this hotel and now haunts that room, and is maybe why Stephen King had his nightmare. But for me, I don't know, something about that just doesn't add up.
No.
But outside of that, to my knowledge, that room's really not all that haunted. But it's still cool nonetheless that Stephen King was right in that room.
Well, he got creeped out by it for some reason. So maybe there is something there.
So I decided to come back to the hotel room because, I don't know, once you've seen one hallway of this hotel, you've kind of seen them all. So I wanted to go outside and walk around a bit, show you the other buildings a bit, but it started raining And on top of that, there are just so many places in this hotel that I'm not allowed to film at. So I'm kind of restricted to filming in my hotel room and in the hallways, and that's about it. But the night is young. I'm not giving up yet. And as a matter of fact, I'm gonna spice things up a little bit. Since it's raining and thundering outside, I wanted to elevate the atmosphere a little bit. I brought a candle inside. I feel like turning off the lights and lighting a candle in a haunted room automatically just kind of makes it more creepy. So let's do it. Okay. That certainly made a big
So that's where he's at, is that very top room? That's amazing.
It's a lot creepier in this room now. And with it thundering and storming outside, honestly, this is a vibe.
I love this channel so far.
You know, last night I arrived here early because I wanted to film a bunch of B-roll shots of the hotel outside, just so I didn't have to do that today when I'm experiencing the hotel. And while I was doing that, I met one of the tour guides that does the ghost tours here at the Stanley, and she was able to show me around some of the parts of the hotel that the public doesn't necessarily have access to, and that was really cool. However, I wasn't allowed to film in most of these places, which is really unfortunate. However, she did take me into the concert hall building, which is supposedly one of the more haunted buildings in the Stanley Hotel.
I'll bet.
Essentially, the concert hall was built by Freeland O. Stanley because Flora, his wife, always wanted to be a performer. So he built this building for her to perform at. And now people claim to have seen Flora's spirit walk across the stage in a white dress, which is pretty creepy. The first floor of the concert hall wasn't really all that spooky to me, but when we got down into the basement is when it started getting a little eerie.
Down into the gallows.
It's a dark basement. And there's this story that the tour guide was telling me that kind of piqued my interest a little bit. It was about this girl back in the day, this homeless girl that apparently snuck into the concert hall basement and was living down there for a very long time. And every night when security would come in and start locking up the concert hall, this girl would hide behind this door, which was an access way to the underground tunnel system that the Stanley has up under it. And she would hide in there until the security left, and then she would come out and live in the basement throughout the night. However, one day the security ended up finding her living down in the basement, and they kicked her out. And at the time, it was wintertime, and in the winter here in Estes Park, it gets really, really cold and really snowy. So she ended up freezing to death and dying. And supposedly, she haunts the basement of the concert hall and even the Stanley Hotel. And the most intriguing part about it all for me is the fact that they claim that she really likes Dum Dum lollipops. So much that if you put a Dum Dum lollipop in the palm of your hand standing up like this, she'll play with it. And when I was down in the basement with that tour guide, she was showing me this, and she put the Dum Dum in the palm of her hand and it was going back and forth, which I thought was really strange. But every time I turned the camera on, it would stop moving, which I thought was really, really weird. Now, after analyzing this a little bit, I just assumed that, you know, if you put the Dum Dum in the palm of your hand, there's a lot of blood vessels in your hand.
Right.
When your heart beats, it's naturally gonna make this Dum Dum move a little bit. But the way that it was moving for her looked so unnatural. It literally was going like this and this. But for me, it's like these small micro movements.
Right.
You see that?
Uh-huh.
So I don't know. I can't really explain it, but.
Do you think it's something, or do you think it's just like a magic trick?
Hello? I thought I just heard something over there. It almost sounded like tapping on that wall. Is there anyone in this room? Or is it just me?
No one but us ghosts.
If there's anyone in this room, blow out this candle. Make something move. See, I just heard a thud.
I heard it.
Within this wall. But to be honest, I feel like that could have been someone shutting their door below me and it just carrying up the pillars of the hotel, because these doors shut really, really hard. But apparently that story comes from a lady that used to work here at the Stanley Hotel as a ghost tour guide. And apparently she was sitting down in the basement with a spirit box for a couple of hours trying to communicate with the ghost. And she kept hearing the name Lucy. So she was like, oh, I must be talking to a girl. And throughout talking to these spirits through the spirit box, she gathered that there was a homeless girl that lived down here, and then she was kicked out and froze to death in the winter snow. However, there is zero documentation that ever happened.
Oh, okay.
And that is one of the biggest ghost stories here at the Stanley.
So it could be just...
Now, I don't know how factual that is. That's just what I've been told.
a myth, not
but
true.
I do think it's very interesting to me. And then on top of that, we were in the basement of the concert hall, and there's this really old mirror down there, very out of place. It's kind of just placed there. It doesn't look like it belongs.
Right.
Apparently, the owner just bought an antique mirror and put it there. But supposedly, if you sit in front of the mirror and take photos, you'll capture ghosts behind you. And there have been several people that have caught weird objects in the background. She showed me a few pictures. They did look really weird. And I took a few photos myself, but I didn't capture anything. But again, that's just one of those things that are a part of this hotel that there's no reason why it's haunted. It's just a creepy looking mirror.
Right.
That sometimes people capture ghosts in front of. There's no story behind it. No one died in front of this mirror. You know what I'm saying? Like, it just like those stories on top of the Elizabeth story in room 217 and the fact that Stephen King never actually saw anything here. He just had a bad dream. It's just all so strange to me that this place is considered one of the most haunted hotels in America, yet all of these ghost stories don't really add up.
It's probably all due
I'm not
to
usually
the movie.
a huge skeptic.
The book by Stephen King and then the movie by Kubrick.
I love, the paranormal. I mean, as you guys know, it's fun to be scared for me, but
to a
I feel
point.
like so many aspects of this hotel can be
If you know it's
debunked.
just fun,
Like
then
another
that's fine.
aspect of this room is the fact that people hear furniture moving around. They hear footsteps a lot, and like I've been hearing that all day. But it's certainly like the building settling. Like this building is so old. Like I hear creaks and cracks all the time, and I hear people walking down the hall constantly. I'm not trying to come here and say this place isn't haunted, because I really don't know. I'm not an expert ghost hunter. I don't have all of the paranormal tools. I don't have a spirit box, EMF reader, or anything. I just kind of put myself in these positions to feel scared, because feeling scared for me is fun. It's entertainment. I don't know. I'm not quite sure what this video is.
Well, she's going to be pissed you're eating her dum-dum.
Maybe I'm not the ghost hunter that I thought I was. Either way, This is a pretty cool experience. Staying in a historic haunted hotel during a thunderstorm in a candlelit dark room with a delicious dum-dum. Dude, freak, life is good. Doesn't really get much better than this. That's for sure. Okay, folks. I am going to start getting ready for bed now. It's getting late. I'm getting tired, and not much is happening here in the Stanley tonight. But even though I'm not experiencing a bunch of paranormal activity, I really am still having a good time here. The vibes are immaculate right now. But I'm gonna get some sleep. I will catch you guys in the morning.
That's kind of cool. I like that channel. I like it a lot. The Fine Print. I'm going to check out a lot more of his stuff. He does mostly like van life type videos, traveling around, living in his van. I haven't watched any of them, but that's just the gist I get from looking at it. Let me know in the comments what you thought of that video. Let me know down below. Now, let's tell a joke. It's time for a joke to brighten your day. How many drugs did Charlie Sheen take? Enough to kill 2.5 men.